Hello statistics students. In this tutorial, we will look up a particular very useful function in Google Sheets, and that is called VLOOKUP, which stands for vertical lookup. So let's see what it does. And for that, let's Google VLOOKUP, and here let's go to the support.google.com, the official Google support for docs, and let's see what they have to say. So as we discussed, VLOOKUP stands for vertical lookup. And what does it do? It searches down the first column of a range. So we give a range of data in the spreadsheet and it searches through the first column of this range for a specific key and then returns the value of a specified cell in the row found. So what we mean by this is something like this. If you recollect, this is the scores data in computational thinking course. So each of these is a particular card. Each column is a particular card except the first one. The first one is just the names of the fields. So we have 29 as the last number, but we are beginning from 0. Therefore, we have 30 cards overall. Now, we know that this is the card number, this is the student's name, this is gender, this is date of birth, so on, so forth. Now, the way to use VLOOKUP is, let us assume we want the place of card number 7. So that would be Vellore. So here we are able to see it directly, but suppose we can't really go through the whole list. So we would do this is equal to VLOOKUP, and the first parameter we're supposed to give is the search key. So what is the value in the first column that the function should look for? The value to search for, right? So here the value to search for is place. So this is the search key, and in the second parameter we have the range of data. So what is the entire range of data? So for this we can select the entire data we have, and that would be the range. And then we go to the next parameter, which is index. What does this index mean? The index is the column index of the value to be returned. So we are trying to find specifically the place of this particular card, and here now the index for that would be, our A column is the first column. So this is second, this is third, this is fourth, this is fifth, this is sixth, seventh, eighth, and ninth. So 9 is the index column. So what are we doing? We are basically trying to find the key place in the first column and then look at what is the value corresponding to that row in the ninth column. This is what we are trying to do. And then the final key is sorted. So is sorted is a binary variable which is set to true by default. So it can take only two values. Either it is sorted, so it is true, and it is not, or it is not sorted and it is, or it is not sorted and thus it is false. So what is sorted here is, this indicates whether the column to be searched, which is the first column of the specified range, is sorted. So here we are basically asking if these values are sorted. What do we mean by sorted? Are they arranged in an order, in ascending or descending order? Here that is not true. They are not arranged in any order. So we give false. If they were arranged in an order, we could give true. And if we just don't give that parameter at all, the function assumes that true is default the value. So this is true by default. So if it is not sorted, it is necessary to mention false here. So now we have entered all the parameters. We can now go and press enter. And we have an error here. The error is because place is a text. It is a string value. So we should put it in these quotation marks. And now we press enter, we get velour. So if you want to try it again, instead of place, let us give date of birth. And now we get 15th March, which is this. Or suppose we wanted the physics score of card number 21. Then we again do VLOOKUP. And since we are interested in the physics score, this is the value here. So I could directly give it as A7 if I wish. And then the range is again everything from A1 to AE9. And then the third parameter we are interested in is this card number 21. When you start from 1, it is a 22nd card, and also because there's this additional column in the beginning, this is a 23rd column from the beginning. And then since the first column is not sorted, we give false. And so that way we got the physics score of this particular card. So this is how we can use VLOOKUP. However, in the formula, when we use A7, here we know that the 7th row is what we are looking for. In general, we would not. In general, you can have thousands of rows and you do not know which row matches your requirement. So it is usually best to type in the actual value over there in the first parameter. Now let's go back to our doc editor's help, and there are a couple of examples here that we should be looking into. These are of some value. In this example, VLOOKUP searches down the first column for a student ID and returns the corresponding grade. So here there are these student IDs, these 4, and their respective grades. And now here the student ID is entered and their grade is being brought up by the VLOOKUP formula. As you can see, the VLOOKUP formula is being used for A9, A10, A11, A12 respectively, which are these ID numbers. So this is kind of like what we have already seen. The more interesting example comes here. Now let's make a copy of this and see what's interesting about it. Here in this example, we are looking at tax rates, the tax percentages for incomes in these ranges 0 to 2,999.99. So less than 3,000 has a tax rate of 1%, and 3,000 to 5,999.99, which is less than 6,000 but greater than or equal to 3,000 is 2%, and then 6,000 to less than 10,000 is 3%, and then 10,000 to less than 14,000 is 4%, and lastly anything greater than 14,000 or equal to 14,000 is 5%. So this is the data. Now here we are making a table with the titles of jobs. So there is associate, there's vice president, there's director, and there's managing director, and we are also putting in their respective incomes. Now as you can see, these values 3,300, 6,500, 9,000 and 11,000 do not actually exist in any of these values here. So what VLOOKUP does is, we now also know that this is a sorted list. So we give the true as the last parameter, true for the last parameter, it is sorted. And then what VLOOKUP does is, if it is a sorted column, it will approximately find what you're looking for. So 3300 does not actually exist in this particular data in the first column, but 3300 is between 3000 and 6000. So it will pick up the 3000 category and put in the 2% that is expected. Likewise, 6500 is between 6000 and 10,000. So it will pick up the tax rate for the 6000 to 10,000 slab. And then 9,000 also the same thing happens. It's between 6,000 and 10,000. So the 6,000 tax rate is picked up. And all of this is happening. This approximation is happening because we set the last parameter as true. Because the first column is sorted, it can do this. If it is not sorted, if you give false, in that case, VLOOKUP will look exactly for the value you are giving. So 3300 is what it will exactly look for, and if it doesn't exist, what will happen then? So let us go back to our example here. Suppose there is no field, let us say biology, and we put it in quotation marks because it's a string. And now if we enter, you are getting a not available error. So we did not find value biology in VLOOKUP evaluation. So here also in this example, if we were to change this formula, let us say we change this formula from true to false, then you get an error and it says that it cannot find 9000 in the VLOOKUP evaluation. This wouldn't be the case if we just kept this as true, and obviously this only applies when your first column is actually sorted. In that case, it will go for the approximate value, and we're getting 3% as required. In the last example that the doc editor's help is providing, we have this table where there is a guest name and what table they must be sitting on and what kind of diet, and also whether the invitation is sent to them or not. Now they're looking up the dietary restriction for different people. So there is David, Nancy, and Mary, and what dietary restriction do they have? And for this, they're doing the VLOOKUP formula. The trouble here is there are two Davids. There is David 1 here, and there's also David 2 here. So what VLOOKUP does is when you look for David in this list, it will match with the first occurrence of that name. So this you have to be very careful with respect to VLOOKUP, because the first occurrence of David is vegetarian. It is returning vegetarian, but the actual David we are looking for, which is with small letter D in the name, that David's dietary restriction is none. So you're getting a wrong value. So this is something you have to be careful about when you're using VLOOKUP. It will return the first occurrence of whatever is your search key. There could be numerous other occurrences of that search key, but VLOOKUP is not going to give you those. So you should be careful about that. Thank you.